Hello, fifth grade, and welcome to Monday, the 12th of October, 2020. This is Mr. Austin coming at you at 7:40 p.m. the day before. But we are trying out a new thing for math groups, and that new thing is me talking to you at this awful, unflattering angle. But you know what? We'll get through it. Right now, you are with your homeroom teacher, and we hope that by doing this, you can get a better understanding of all of the concepts that we are presenting in math. I know that when we have 60 plus kids in a class, it can be difficult to get your understanding and get your questions answered and across. We want to give you that chance in your homeroom. So today I'm just going to provide us with a quick video that goes over some of the basics of what we're going to be working on today in lesson 11 in your Eureka Math workbook. Okay, and our learning objective for today is right up here, and it says I can multiply a decimal number by a whole number by using my knowledge of place value and multiplication strategies. Okay, now is going to be a good time for the teacher to pause the video, and I want us to stop and think about what do we know about place value, what do we know about multiplication, what do we know about decimal numbers, and how do we think we might use that knowledge to help us understand this concept better. So we're going to pause the video, take a couple minutes, and talk through those questions. All right, hopefully you had a rigorous discussion in your classrooms with your teachers. Participation is one of those things that we're really looking at. So let's go ahead and start dissecting this objective. So we know that we're multiplying, right? So we know that our numbers are going to get larger. We also know that when we're multiplying, we're looking at making groups of things, right? So if I had something like 3 times 10, that's the same thing as saying I have 3 groups of 10 donkeys, okay? So altogether, I would have 30 donkeys, right? Okay. Well, that's when we're working with whole numbers, right? But our objective today says that we're working with decimal numbers multiplied by a whole number using our knowledge of place value and multiplication strategies. So what we're going to see today is expressions like this one. We're going to see expressions like 3 2/10 times 2. Okay, we might also see something like 3 times 2 1/10, right? Okay, these are all expressions that meet this objective of a decimal number multiplied by a whole number. Okay, decimal number multiplied by a whole number. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's use that example of 3 2/10 times 2. Okay, 3 2/10 times 2. Now, one of the things that I love about multiplying decimal numbers and multiplication in general is that we can use this fancy thing called an area model, and it's really not that fancy. Really, all it is just a bunch of boxes that we can put decomposed numbers into to better understand our place value. Okay, so I'm going to show you. When we're multiplying using a place value chart, area model, what we need to look at is, actually before we draw it, what we need to look at is what these numbers, what kind of place values they have. So we know that 3 2/10 represents 2 place values. It represents the ones place and it represents the tenths place, right? So we know that it has 2 place values, whereas our 2, our whole number, just has 1 place value, the ones, okay? So when we go to make our area model, we need to show that, okay? So we're gonna make a rectangle, all right? And we're gonna show that one of our numbers or one of our sides only needs to represent 1 place value, right? So that's where we'll put 2, okay? It's only representing 1 place value. Now, the other side needs to be able to represent 2 place values, one for the 3 ones and one for the 2 tenths. Boom. Now we got something to represent the ones place, something to represent the tenths place. Now, let's just go ahead and write down what we have, okay? Just like we did on this side, we wrote that we had 2 ones. Here we're gonna write that we have 2 ones and that we have 2 tenths, okay? 2 ones and 2 tenths. Now all we have to do is multiply. What is 2 times 3? Well, 2 times 3 is 6. 2 groups of 3 is 6. 3 groups of 2 is 6. And then we have 2 times 2 tenths. Well, if I have 2 groups of 2 tenths, then I would have 1, 2. That's 1 group. 3, 4. That's 2 groups. I would have 4 tenths. So then what I'm going to do is add these two values together. 6 ones plus 4 tenths is equal to 6 and 4 tenths. Okay, pretty easy. And the reason that I like this model is because it relates directly to what we do when we use standard algorithm. Okay, so I'm going to keep this up and we're going to solve this using standard algorithm as well. Okay, so let's rewrite our expression. We have 3 and 2 tenths times 2. Actually, I want to write it in a different color. Sorry, friends. Let's do orange. 3 and 2 tenths times 2. Okay, and let's put this in standard algorithm. All right, now we're going to do this just like we would a multiplication problem that we have before. And the cool thing and the thing to remember about multiplication is when we're stacking it into our standard algorithm like we did for addition and subtraction, remember when we did that for addition and subtraction, we had to make sure that our place values were lined up? Well, my friends, when we are multiplying, we do not have to make sure of that because our 2 ones is going to be multiplied by the 2 tenths, and it's also going to be multiplied by the 3 ones. So it doesn't really matter that it doesn't line up. Okay, so now we're going to multiply the same way that we did over in our area model. Here we have 2 times 2 tenths, just like we did over here. 2 times 2 tenths was 4 tenths. Then we're going to multiply 2 ones times 3 ones, and that equaled 6 ones. So pretty straightforward, pretty simple. All right, here's what I want you to do. Your teacher is going to pause the video and she is going to give you an option. They can either have you pick if you want to solve using standard algorithm or if you want to solve using an area model, but your job is to right now solve this expression. 7 and 4 tenths times, oops, I'm so sorry. Let's not do one that big. Let's do 4 and 3 tenths times 3. Okay, so teacher, pause the video and take about 3 minutes or however much time your class needs to solve this expression. They can use either area models or they can use standard algorithm. It's their choice. Okay, so hopefully you found that time beneficial. Oops. And let's go through these different strategies. All right, so let's do the area model first. So we're drawing my area model. Now I need to check, okay, this number or this factor, I only have one place value, so I need to only have one side. Okay, and that one side is going to be 3. On this number, I have 2 place values represented. I have the 1s and I have the 3s, or excuse the 1s and the 3s. The 1s and the tenths, okay, the 1s and the tenths. So I need 2 on this side. Okay, I need 2 place values on this side. And those numbers are going to be 4 and 3 tenths. Now, notice I wrote my 3 on this side this time, whereas up here, I wrote my 2 on that side. Friends, multiplication is something called, or something that benefits from what we call the commutative property, which means whether we write it as 4 3/10 times 3 or 3 times 4 3/10, it's going to equal the same thing. So similarly, it doesn't matter what side you put this on. All right, now we multiply. Here we have 3 times 3/10. Well, if I have one group of 3/10, that's 3/10. If I have two groups, that's 6/10. And if I have three groups, I have 9/10. Okay, so 3 times 3/10 is 9/10. Then I have 4 times 3, 4 ones times 3 ones, and we know that that's going to equal 12. So my answer when I add these together is 12 9/10. Okay, let's use standard algorithm and see if we get the same answer. All right, so here we have 4 3/10 times 3. Remember, with multiplication, we do not have to line up our place values because everything's getting multiplied by everything eventually. So here we go again. We have 3/10 times 3 ones. Well, if I have three groups of 3/10, then I have 9/10. Then I have 4 times 3. If I have 4 groups of 3 or 3 groups of 4, I have 12 ninths, or 12 9/10, which is the same answer that we got using the area model. So let's double check our learning goal for today. It says I can multiply a decimal number by a whole number using my knowledge of place value and multiplication strategies. I think we've accomplished that goal, and I hope that you can work through this problem set with your teacher and be successful in your group. Have a wonderful day.